Hello, ninjas. I'm excited to hop on here. Kind of late tonight. I'm working late right now. It is a power month. If you are thinking about 2024 right now, we're getting into the last month, and this is the month that actually sets the tone for 2024. And so I have a lot of clients I'm talking to right now about how to set them up for success. So that way they can start their process improvement, start their cost savings immediately in Q1 rather than just trying to figure out what that looks like in Q1 and booking it for later in the year. So, if you don't know me and you're new to our community, I'm Kirsten. I am the founder of Kaizen Ninja, and I lead Kaizen events internationally in manufacturing, service, and higher education primarily. And I also coach process improvement enthusiasts and leaders on how to facilitate rapid, high impact Kaizen events in their own organizations. So I'm very excited to talk to you tonight. I want to talk to you today about what the hidden costs are when you're choosing someone to run process improvement or a problem solving experience who is not actually a trained facilitator. And there is a major impact to that typically. I see this across the board in different organizations that I've worked with. And the top three things that I've identified is number one, that person comes in with bias and a limited perspective because they're in the details. Two, there is a huge time impact, which ultimately converts into money. And so when someone internally who's close to the problem is running a project, it's spread out over time period, as opposed to bringing in a facilitator and have that very focused. And then finally, number three reason that creates a cost differential is the skill and training gap. And this impacts the team from a momentum standpoint and from a softer skills standpoint. So I'm going to dive into each of those with you. And I can't wait to hear what resonates for you, what really connects when you think about this. And I can't wait to hear some of the experiences you've had, probably working yourself on a team where there wasn't a facilitator and there was possibly a negative experience in that situation. Okay, so the very first one, bias and limited perspective. This is like completely common. And I want to just share with you an experience I had a couple years ago. I actually ran my very first Kaizen event in higher education. It was 2 years ago. And it was a 3-day event. And I was so nervous because I've run hundreds of Kaizen events in manufacturing, but higher education is different. And in manufacturing, there is an environment that's much more competitive, especially back then. Today, higher education is definitely getting infinitely more competitive very quickly. But at that time, it was a little less competitive than at least medical manufacturing that I have a background in. And sometimes manufacturing has a little bit less PC terminology. And so going into higher education, where it is just an elevated experience in some ways, I was feeling a little bit nervous about jumping in and using my skills in that way. Luckily, I had an amazing mentor who coached me up front about the terminology and style that makes a difference in that environment. And it was incredibly supportive, and I'm very thankful. So I got to the site, I ran the Kaizen event, and I just got the most incredible feedback. And one of the reasons that they specifically said was that I came in with a totally open mind and I was able to listen in a way that other consultants who they'd work with, who were immersed in the higher education system, weren't able to do, because they would come in and say, well, this other university or this other college does it this way, so you should be able to do that too. But when I was able to come into that environment, I was able to have completely unbiased perspective. None of the team members were able to sway me on the best process improvement experience or the most streamlined system. I coached the team and facilitated the team to come to that together rather than relying on a single individual or some background experience that would overpower that team dynamic. So that was actually a really big win and a big learning for me about some of my strengths and my skills when I come into an arena and am able to support a team in a different way than somebody internally. And I also found that often in teams, especially when there's bias involved, the person who has either the subject matter expert or the strongest leadership strengths tend to overpower the other team members. And so when you bring a facilitator in, you actually are able to eliminate that and that bias towards that team member's knowledge. And the facilitator is able to take each person's strengths and bring them to the table and pull out the experience that everyone brings in that scenario. So I found that teams that don't bring in a facilitator have a much less robust solution that they come up with because they're really close to that problem and they're handicapped by that bias quite often. So that's number one. Number two, time and money savings. This is a real thing. It is significantly more efficient to have a facilitator run your project team and have it in a focused time period. I've been parts of teams before when I wasn't the facilitator where that dynamic and that problem-solving effort stretched out over weeks or months. And then the team shows up to the meetings and they're trying to figure out where they started. It is incredibly inefficient. It is frustrating for the team to not see that progress or momentum. And partly because they're pulled in every direction. Even the leader, if there's a leader who's internal, they're pulled in multiple other directions within the organization. But when you have a third-party facilitator, they're able to bring in the focus, create that space to thrive and have really push the team to move forward through the stages in an accelerated way. And that is incredibly powerful. Earlier this year, I actually coached someone to lead. I trained them to lead Kaizen events while we led the Kaizen event, right? And in 5 days, we saved over $300,000 in this one department and that one production line. And those skills would be applied to other production lines, the things that we implemented. So we saved more than $300,000 in this one event. And it was really powerful because that time we could literally calculate the value of it. So in 5 days, we were able to start banking because we implemented in the event a significant portion of that. We were able to start banking the savings immediately with that increased throughput and the increased productivity that they experienced directly from that event. But let's say we didn't implement for 6 months, like a normal project team rollout is 6 months. Well, you automatically in that time, you lose at least $150,000 of savings because you don't have the implementation till the end of that 6-month period. And so there is distinct ROI on hiring a facilitator or having an outside facilitator from another department actually support your team in that way. So that is the second thing. The third cost, hidden cost, is the skills and training gap. And this actually directly ties to the morale, which has a cost associated with it. I come from manufacturing where there's a big mix of personalities, and the people who are the best problem solvers and usually the subject matter experts don't always have the best relationship skills. And those are literally top engineers, but their people skills are not as perfected. And so there's a distinct skill set that facilitators develop and train for that includes active listening, includes the conflict resolution, discussion, guidance, and literally applying the perfect level of push to move the team forwards. And the average person just isn't trained in that. And so there's a cost involved when you're not able to use those skills to move the team forward uh, in a healthy way that supports that conflict resolution and action. All right, that's it, you guys. That's the beauty of having a facilitator. It is a tremendous difference when you're able to have someone who is standing for the health of the team, the movement forward, and the high impact without having to work around their true highest skill sets. So that is actually why I am not only a strong facilitator, but I also train other people to be strong facilitators. So as you are getting ready for the new year and mentally preparing for your site to really thrive in 2024, think about any process improvement effort that you have coming up that a facilitator would be powerful for. If you want just to go in and hire a facilitator, I'm always available. Go ahead and DM me. Also, if you want training for one of your team members so they can be a strong facilitator, I have this awesome training called Momentum that I would love to walk you through what that looks like and support you through it. So reach out to me directly at any point. Drop in the comments any horror stories that you've experienced from leading process improvement experiences without a facilitator who's trained. All right, I love you guys. Make a huge difference this week. You have only a couple weeks left to push through till the end of the year. I'm here for you. I can't wait to talk to you. Have the best night.